How do you know? We have one heck of a talented student minister over here, leading our kids and leading our church, Mr. Lynn Hartwell. That video together, and that's super awesome. When I saw that, I'm like, wow, how cool is that? Well, welcome tonight. We are kicking off a brand new series called Legacy Family Values. We'll be into this for the next 3 weeks. And then we remember on that last week, that Spirit Fest night. And so that's the week that we're challenging you guys to live out what we've been talking about here. And as far as being life and light to your neighbors and spending that time with them. Maybe having them over for a barbecue. Or maybe taking them over to Spirit Fest. Whatever you might decide to do. But as a family, you're going to use that time. But for these next 3 weeks, we're going to get to dive into Legacy Family Values. And this week, I get the privilege to share about relationship over rules and how God longs for us to be in a relationship more than focusing on rules and when it comes to our parenting. But before we go any further, let's give this night to God. Dear Heavenly Father, we know that you're in this place. We're so grateful for that. For if not for your presence, this is all a waste of time, waste of energy, waste of words. So God, I pray that you would hide me. No one would see me or hear my words. They would hear words from you, God, and that they would be straight to the heart, and it would be what you would have us all hear tonight. It's in your name I pray. Amen. Well, like I said, we get to start off talking about relationship over rules. And have you ever noticed that to have an effective lie, all you got to do is take a truth and kind of just wrap it up with like a little grain of a lie. Just a little bit. Just twist it a little bit. Now, because a lie that's obvious is easy to spot, is it not? Especially coming from our kiddos. Have you ever been able to look at them and you're like, good try, bud. That's not even close. But what if they took just the truth and they just kind of wrapped just a little bit of a lie around it? Now we kind of don't know where the lie begins and the truth ends, and we kind of get confused. It kind of gets a little twisted there. Now, many people might see the Bible here as just a big book of rules, right? Now, God undoubtedly has a high standard. And He has rules. That's true. But they're there for us, for our benefit. To have healthier and happier lives. And naturally, He wants to protect us from what is not healthy for us. But guess what? What does Satan love to do? Let's come in there, right? Twist those take the truths and twist them just a little bit. Twist them in our ears, and we get kind of confused. Heck, let's look back in the garden. What did Satan have to do with Eve? All he did was kind of twist what was God's true motive for Eve. He wanted nothing better for Adam and Eve, to live in them with harmony forever. But what he did? No, he wanted Eve to focus on the beauty of that forbidden fruit and forget everything else that God had provided, right? This huge garden, they could eat and travel to their heart's content, But what did Satan do? Twist that little truth, and he focused on one thing and forgot everything else. But what about today? What about here and now? Well, Satan likes to do the same thing. He likes to do the same thing with us. He likes us to see God's rules as arbitrary and restrictive. Something that's to hold us in, tie us down. And Satan's plan of deception and seduction works whenever it captures us when we focus on what God's limiting rules are and overlook the truth that God's the God of a relationship. When we focus on God being, He's out to get us. He's the big principal. Out to catch us when we do something wrong. And that's how we see God. Satan's got us. His little twisty lies work. And we totally miss out on the fact that God is the God of a relationship. But even more deadly than that is when we take Satan's twist and false view and we put it into our parenting. And we focus on the behavior of our kids and not having a relationship with them. That's far deadlier. So what I want us to do is dive into this core truth, and we want to look at parenting God's model and how you have to have a love relationship to parent God's style. Now I'm going to ask you a question. You may think this is a trick question, or where are you coming from? This is ridiculous. Where's Danny? We want him back now. Who is this joker up here? I did not come here for this. I did not sign up for this ride. What is going on? But have you ever seen a self-portrait of God? Anybody? Anybody ever seen a self-portrait of God? Okay, it's not a trick question. I'm not trying to trip you up. But if you look into Luke chapter 15, you'll see that that Jesus paints a beautiful picture of God. And God being a forgiving, loving, giving, accepting, welcoming Father. And he's absolutely bent on relationship. Nothing else. Completely built on relationship. So if you want to turn there and take a look, you can. But I want to kind of tell the story of Luke chapter 15. It's 11 through 32. But growing up in West Texas, I can kind of see this father, right? I can totally picture this father. You know, he's one of a wealthy farmer, rancher, landowner. You know, and he's got two sons. They're completely different. They couldn't be, you know, more different. The younger one was like, Dad, I'm out of here. Kind of rejects his dad, rejects the family business. But guess what? He wants the daddy's money. And he basically says to his dad, you know, God, I wish you were already dead, because then I could get what's coming to me in my inheritance. And he heads off for fast living, right? And boy, does he find it. He finds it fast. And it didn't take long till he's blown through all his money. He's lost all his friends, lovers, and dignity. For that matter, he'd fallen to the bottom of the barrel. He was feeding pigs, the lowliest of the low. Now granted, back at home, at his dad's wealthy ranch, he was refusing to feed the cattle. No, I don't have nothing part of that. I don't have nothing to do with your business, Dad. I'm out of here. Now he was wishing he could feed cows as he's slopping out the pigs. And he's starving. He's so hungry that even the slop that he's pouring out for the pigs, he's like, that's kind of looking pretty good right there. He's that hungry. You know, he had really fallen hard. He'd fallen fast. Now let's go back to the family ranch. And you could say, well, you know, hey, the father, he's still got that one good son, right? The one that stayed back, that he's working the ranch, he's doing all the jobs. You know, some of us here, some of us dads in the room, we could say, hey, you know, I got the one, I might just write off the other one. You know, hey, he wishes I was dead, he's dead to me too. You know? And if he ever thought about coming back, you know, we're going to have a long, hard talk. We're really going to lay out all this that you're going to have to do, and you're seriously going to be on probation, if nothing else. You know, and you're really going to have to prove to me that your behavior has changed, your heart's changed before I ever think about letting you come back into my house. You could think that. Most of us would probably not too hard to think like that. But you know, this dad wasn't. Most dads like us. He looked every day. He looked and looked and looked every day to see his son. And as the son slowly trudged home, he came up with this plan in his head. And he's like, gosh, you know, the hired hands, the people that work for my dad, they've got it way better than me. I mean, they've got a good place to sleep. They've got a good, decent job. They're not feeding pigs. And they've got good food. I'm so hungry I want to eat this mess. I'll just beg for his forgiveness, and hopefully, as I get close enough to him, I can holler out and, you know, hear my apology, and at least I know there's no possible way, there's no way he's going to accept me back. No way. I basically told him to his face, I wish he was dead. Give me your dough. You know, and then blew it and embarrassed him, the family, everything. There's no way he'll ever accept me back. But what the father does next truly shows his heart. Truly shows his heart. And from a distance, in Luke chapter 15, verse 20, the son, he was returning to the father. And while he was still a long ways off, it's a long ways off, he was filled with love and compassion. And he ran. And he threw his arm around his son. And he kissed him. And he welcomed him back home. For those of you that may know, this is Cooper. This is my youngest. So I know he's probably a little bit shy. He's really brave to be up here. But as you can see, he's got no shoes on. Now, he's not quite as dirty. We didn't want to do that. But not quite as dirty as the son would have been. But he's feeding pigs. You can imagine, head to toe, mud, filth, the worst smelling, the worst. Did that stop the father? Did he say, oh man, you're a little rank. You better just stay back a little bit. I can hear you. I can smell you from there. No. He ran to him. He threw his arms around him. He embraced him. He kissed him. That was a lot for an older gentleman, because many of you may have heard this story before. Those of you that haven't, they wore different clothes than we wear, right? They wore kind of almost dressed like garb. And so to run, he would have literally had to hike that up to run. He would have been exposing his legs. He didn't care about what anybody else thought about him. He threw off his dignity to show again how much he loved his son. Was so excited for him to be back. But what did he do next? Does anybody know? Does anybody know what happens next? He broke out the biggest paddle you ever saw and gave him a whooping for all time. Is that what he did? No, I got it. He broke into the most epic tongue lashing anybody has ever heard and told him everything he had done wrong and how much pain he had brought the family and how much failure he had done and how much disgrace he had brought the family. Is that what he did? No, he actually restored his son from rebellion to righteousness. And he did that, if I can get this thing to work, by putting the best robe on his son. All right. Then the father restored him to a place of authority, still under the father, but now he's back over all of the father's possessions. And he did that by taking the family ring and placing it on the son's hand. Okay? And last of all, the father restored the son's status to heir of all of his wealth and comfort by placing shoes on his feet. All right. And the dad bestowed all of this on his son before one mention of rules. One qualification to come back to his house, to be welcomed to the Father's house. What a beautiful picture Jesus painted. Self-portrait of God. Y'all give Cooper a hand. Our love for our kids has to be more about our relationship with them than rules. This unconditional love characterizes the Heavenly Father, and it lays the foundation for a godly approach to parenting. Okay, now I want to dive into this more with a couple more stories talking about this unconditional love and some really pretty pictures that are laid out in the Bible. Before I do, I think it might be helpful for us to consider our own experience. Our own experience growing up, and maybe, kind of how things were for us in our childhood. And did our parents ever make us feel guilty as a child for being a child or making childish mistakes? Did you sense unconditional love from your parents? Or did you sense that you had to achieve certain grades? You had to make varsity. You had to be pretty to earn their love. Now, I don't say this in a sense to drudge up buried or past hurts. If you know me, I'm more of a positive guy. I'm like rainbows and unicorns. I don't want to talk about all the hard stuff here. And I don't say that to drudge up anything past, but just in maybe how that is affecting your view on parenting. Maybe there's something that you're doing you don't even realize, you don't even know. And maybe there's something that you need to go back and make peace with. Maybe there's something that you kind of got to just forgive. Move on. Knowing that your parents are humans, right? And they undoubtedly made some mistakes. Now, whether or not that was ever forgiven or made, satisfactory to our liking, we can move on. We can forgive, and we can choose to look to God for a perfect parenting model. So, if rules are not the most important thing to God, what is? And looking to this, I want us to dive into God's parenting model, okay? And that God desired relationship from the very, 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 very beginning. And it was awesome, the songs that we got to sing tonight that illustrated that you've already spoken that truth back to God. But he desired relationship from the beginning. He always valued relationships over rules. Okay, so let's look back at Genesis. The very first time that we've got a recorded picture of God the Father. Okay? It's going to give us a view into what he really prioritizes, what he really thinks matters the most. Okay? So as Genesis begins, God takes several days of creation, preparing a place for his ultimate creation, Adam. And then after Adam was created, God did what? He rested. Now, was God tired? The women might say, oh man, he was so worn out from making man, he had to rest, But no, God wasn't tired from doing what he did. He wanted to show a systematic and periodic need for rest, and in displaying that for Adam. So Adam and God talked daily. They walked in the cool of the evening. God heard Adam. Adam heard God. Everything was great. But, what? Come on, ladies. There was a big hole, right? There was something missing. There was this huge void. Adam had no peer. He had no relationship. No one that was his equal. There was this missing. Why on earth did God, who made all of this plan to create Adam, rest? Why did he create Adam and Eve at the same time? Why would he have Adam kind of suffer in that way? To feel that void. Perhaps it was for him to get a feeling for that need for relationship. And how important and vital relationship was. For him to know that there was a need, there was something that was missing. And then when it wasn't missing, to know how good it was for it to not be missing any longer. Clearly, God desires a relationship with us. Why on else would he create us with that capacity? He clearly could have created us with the ability to not do anything wrong. But then, relationship would have been impossible. The desire that God has for a love relationship, it just radiates throughout Scripture. All you got to do is look at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 and 5. It says, the Lord is our God. You must love the Lord with all of your heart. And Jesus repeats the same truth in Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 and 37. When a Pharisee, what was a Pharisee? He was an expert in the law. Rules, right? An expert. And he asked Jesus, teacher, what is the most important commandment of the law, the rules? He wants to have the rules down. And Jesus replied, what? You must love the Lord with all of your heart. And he added, you must love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said the entire Old Testament was wrapped up in those two commandments. And here at Legacy, we know this is our mission, to love God and love people. Now the grand purpose for God is in this, to love God first, have a love relationship with him, and then with other people. Now there may be skeptics here asking, can you really be sure that God just isn't interested in just getting us to behave? How do you know that he desires a relationship above rules, especially with people as messed up and flawed as we are? I mean, come on. Is that realistic? Is that reasonable? Well, let's go back and look at Genesis again. It didn't take long after creating Adam and Eve that what they do? They dropped the ball. God gave them what? One rule. He didn't give them a whole bunch. He gave them one rule. You can do anything. Go eat any all this. Not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's it. One rule. And what did they do? Of course, they broke the one rule. But then, what did God do? What did he do? Did God say, this human thing, it's overrated. This Adam, it was a trial run. I'm going to wash my hands. Let me just start over again. Did he do that? Or did he say, humankind altogether, let's just scratch it and I'll just focus on the rest of creation? Did God do that? No. He came looking. Even when we rebelled, God came looking for us and he called them out of hiding. Okay? The truth is God comes looking for us. When we learn this, when we know that God loves and cares for us to the point even when we rebel, he's going to come looking for us. He's going to come looking for you. He's not going to give up on you. He's not going to be like, oh, well, no, they done messed it up now. I'm done. I'm out. No. He's going to come looking for you. He's going to call you out of hiding, even when you rebel. So, how does a relationship or a lack thereof look as far as parenting goes? Well, I got that's a really great quote we're going to put up on the screen. It's from Chip Ingram, and he's president of Walk Through the Bible Ministries, and he says this: your relationship with your child is a bridge, okay? It's a bridge. And your lifestyle values are carried across that bridge to your child. The stronger your bridge, the greater the weight of the truth it will hold. I want y'all to think about that just for a second. The relationship, not the rules, not the obedience, not the how much they nail it on the head with what you ask them to do and they do it. The relationship with your child is that bridge. We all want them to have a godly lifestyle. We all want the best for our kids. We want our kids to do greater, far greater things than we can ever hope for, imagine, or anything we've ever done. But it's that relationship that we have with our kids that's going to get it there. All right, the last one I want to look at, the last story, is in the New Testament. And everybody knows the Sunday school answer for if you ask a question, what's the answer? Come on. Man, that's quiet. I know the kids can be louder than that. What's the answer? There we go. So we're going to look at how Jesus dealt with relationship, okay? Now, undoubtedly, he is the single most expression of God in the New Testament and how God values relationships over rules. He flipped all the rules upside down. He blew everybody's mind everywhere he went. Okay, now the problem is not finding an example. You know, there's hundreds, but I chose one, and it's an interesting one. It may not be one that you might have thought of, but let's look at one of Jesus' last acts here on earth, on the cross. On the cross, it's hard to imagine a person more worthless to Jesus than the thief that was nailed next to him, right? He was moments away from dying, and his future usefulness to anybody was very limited. This had no bearing on what Jesus said to him. It blows me away. Jesus promised him in Luke 23:43, what does he say? Today you will be with me in paradise. Now, has this ever caused any of you in the room, it may not have, but maybe somebody in this room to cry out, come on, Jesus. You know, like old Chris Carter likes to say, come on, man. You know, can anybody say, what has this guy ever deserved? God's mercy like that. You know, his past is full of darkness. He's earned his place on the cross, the worst way to die. But in spite of that, in spite of his usefulness or lack thereof to anybody, Jesus desired a relationship with him. The thief, he couldn't obey one single rule after his conversion. He couldn't attend one church service. He couldn't donate one single dollar. But Jesus still put value on a relationship with that thief more than one obeyed rule. Throughout Jesus' ministry, he put a priority in relationships. I mean, there's so many examples, but some of them are, he met with the most notorious sinners there were on the planet. The people you can see want to run the other direction. He just said, hey, let's go have lunch. You know, I'm going to go to your house. You know, what about calling into ministry tax collectors, the most hated people? Yeah, he did that. He called Matthew. He called Zacchaeus. His mercy on the prostitute that was dragged in front of him. Everybody's ready to kill him. Come on, Jesus, give us the word. We're ready to go. What did he do? No. Forgiveness, love, grace, mercy, relationship. No matter their circumstances, no matter the behavior, no matter the choices. And this one I love the most. The people that he rebuked as they tried to keep children away from him. As parents, we must put relationship with our kids before any justifiable goals for their obedience. Whatever goals we have for our kids, if we want to pattern our lives after God, relationship must come first. Now, I'd like to close with a review of the three proofs that we have here, the three stories and three pictures that God has of how he puts relationship over rules. First, God created us in his image. He is relational. He created Adam before Eve so that Adam would recognize his need for relationship. The second one, Adam and Eve, they had but one rule. They had but one rule given to them. They broke it. Jesus still came looking for them. Jesus proved that he cared for relationship over performance by forgiving the thief on the cross. Now I know this is hard. This is so much easier said than done. I could be sitting out there and have someone saying this, and I'd be like, man, that's some good stuff. But man, is it not the hardest thing to do? So easy to correct the behavior. So easy to kind of see our relationship with our kids based on how well are they doing when we ask them to do something. Are they saying yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir? God doesn't care about any of that. He's the Father. He's the Father that hiked up his skirt and went running to his kiddo, stinky smelling and all, and wrapped him up in his love and kissed him. So to end in some fun, to end in some laughs, to maybe encourage you on, as much as I love sports, as much as I love coaching, the whole bit, y'all take a check at this video real quick.
All right, guys, let's settle down. Hey, settle down! This is a playoff-like atmosphere. There is a ton at stake right now, and all that we have done, all that we've worked for, all the tears, all the sweat, all of the late nights, all of the dirty diapers. Taylor, where you at?
Yes, sir.
What do you do when your kid throws a temper tantrum at HEB?
Give him what he wants so he'll shut up and stop bothering me.
Wrong! Shepherd their heart, not their behavior. Edwards, what do you do when the chores don't get done?
Just let my wife do it. It's faster.
Wrong! Promote personal responsibility and a Godward orientation.
It sounds difficult.
What? What are you going to do when you got a 26-year-old man-child in your basement, doesn't have a job, playing video games, taking up all your Netflix queue? Does that sound like a good plan? No, not now, Jerry. No. Williams.
Hang on. Yes, sir.
What do you do when your kid gives you lip?
You give them lip right back.
Wrong! Teach them to submit to authority.
Hey, you submit to authority, man.
Jerry, still not now. This right now, this is our house. This is your house. This is what you need. Jerry, now would be the time. All right, let's go. Let's get out here and let's go shepherd the heck fire out of these kids. Let's go.
I would like to lead us in a prayer as the band comes to lead us in a time of response. There may be some of you out here that, man, you didn't hear anything about parenting. Maybe that's not where you're at right now at all. Maybe you're that lost son. Maybe you've been rebelling against God. Maybe you're far, far off and you think, gosh, if I can just get in the doors of the church, maybe if I can just get to, I don't know what you might be thinking, just maybe I'll get close enough and I can holler out to God and he can hear all my rehearsed apologies and all. Maybe you hear tonight, God is that Father running. He's out there looking every day like this, looking for a father, waiting for you to come back this way. And when you're just barely coming back towards God, He's running for you. He's ready to wrap His arms around you, to fall on your neck, to kiss you, to make you know how much He loves you. He died on the cross for you. He paid it. You don't got to pay it. So there may be some of you, you've never accepted Christ. You don't know that love. You don't have that relationship. Maybe you're far off. You've fallen off. And you're trying to come back. Use this time. It's your time. This time is your time. It's your time with God. It's not your time for anything else. It's your time with God. If that needs to be your conversation, I encourage you to do it. Maybe this is a time you want to just, like I love it, it says, I want to shepherd the heck fire out of my kid's heart. Maybe your kid needs a big old bear hug from you right now. They need to know how much you love them right now. Maybe there needs to be some confessing. You know, maybe you need to huddle up and you need to be confessing with one another. Maybe there needs to be some hugging. Maybe there needs to be some praying with one another. I don't know what you might need to do right now. This is your time. This is your invitation. I'm going to invite Clint and Ryan to come up here. And if there's those of you that need prayer, that want to have someone to pray for, I'll be up here as well. If there's those that need to come up, want to use this altar as a place to cry out to God, you do it. Stay in your chairs, cry out to God. Interact with the song. Whatever it is, this is your time. This is you and God right now. So, as the Lord moves, follow that leading. Be bold. Take that step like that son did. Be bold and follow his leading.